Got a
I
few
was looking for our host, Mayor
online
Dustin, to
now.
see if he's here.
Do have a few here.
That's Mayor Buse, we have Mayor Little, we have Mayor Dustin, just came in, Jeff just came in. I think we're good to go. We'll go ahead with the agenda. One item that we should have added to the agenda is a brief report from our county engineer, Matt Phillips. If you read the minutes, the last COG meeting, we talked about funding, approved funding for county master transportation plan. He'll give us a 2-minute or less update on where that's at. So I'll add that to the agenda. We need to go through introductions. I think we've got some people in the back, so I think we'll probably
You want us to do introductions?
I'm good if you don't want to go through it.
so. Let's start up here, and then we'll go to the back with introductions. Mayor of Providence, John Drew.
Mayor Newby, Sean Dustin.
Jesse Mock, staff engineer, Cache County.
Jeff Gilbert with the Cache MPO.
Jim Gass with Cache MPO.
Megan Isaac, do the minutes.
Charles Wheeler, Hyde Park City Mayor.
Holly Dean, Logan City Mayor.
Sheldon Rhodes, new to the town.
Frank McDowell, Clarkston. Lynn Payne, Trenton. Jeff Barnes, Smithfield City Mayor.
David Wood, Malvern. Damon Camp from North Logan.
In here, and then Mayor.
And back there.
Jacob Hayes, CRS, Trent. Paul Harris, Logan City.
Justin Long, Midway City. Sam On, Logan City. Derek Carter, Lake City.
McCall Smith.
Greg Jersey, Legislative Associates. Ryan Snow, Providence City.
George Alden, North Logan City.
Alan Lewis, North Logan City.
Matt Phillips, Cache County.
Okay, thank you.
Got your people online too.
Okay, and online all right. Upper
Nick
left.
Little, Mayor Paradise.
Thank you, Vic. Ed?
Ed Buse, tie.
I'm an engineering consultant working for WCG, and I'm helping out with Cache County in the evaluation of the safety assessment.
And I see Mayor Bailey just arrived. You're welcome to come up here.
Chief, you're gonna sit on the back row.
Grab your tent. Okay, first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from April 26th.
Mayor, we had someone join here this last week. Get them to introduce themselves. Ian.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ian Nemelka. I'm a city councilman from Mendon City. Just wanted to see how COG worked and get a little bit more familiar with it. Thanks.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Okay. I have a agenda item to approve the minutes of April 26th, the last COG meeting. A motion. Motion for Mayor Barnes, second. Can. Any discussion, comments, corrections, petitions, amendments?
Actually, I was gonna make a comment, but I'll make the motion to. Just on the page 2 there, 1.5. Just put an S on the words. 1.5 years and the lack of a plan for sending.
Mayor Harris got an amendment to propose this.
Mayor here.
Yeah, just on the 4th page, down where it says the council, the third line down, it says no long vote on the urban project. Probably should be no longer vote.
Which page?
It's on page 4.
29.
Yeah, line 29. It says no longer vote.
We'll get that corrected.
No longer.
Probably longer should be.
Okay. Good catch. Any other corrections, comments? Changes? Seeing none, can I call for a vote? All in favor of approving the minutes from April?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay. Item number 3, consider amending local COG, Local Transportation Fund Program Manual. We got this by email. We got it in the mail from Jeff Gilbert. One major change in here. If you want to take us through just the changes.
Just quickly, we normally don't really amend this till the beginning of the new year. There's a couple items that we need to take care of now. I'll draw your, and just as a reminder, this is the sort of Bible for all things COG. This is our policy manual that describes the process and policies. So if you turn to page 9, there's just a couple wording changes, and you see that highlighted. We've had a standing policy that says when the COG Executive Committee at the beginning of a fund cycle approves the amount that we're pushing out, we don't really want that to change. What it was conceived for is sort of arbitrary changes, but we never really thought about it in terms of what happens when actual revenue changes. And the reason that's pertinent is when we begin a COG cycle, we take what the actual revenue that we see come into the fund up until that point. So this year it was in February where we had actual numbers for sales tax receipts. And what we end up doing is we estimate for the remainder of the months of the calendar year, we do a conservative estimate of 300,000 just to be safe for the rest of the year. Normally that approach holds out pretty well. And when we get to this point of the cycle, the numbers that we estimated are pretty close to where we're at, or at least within a reasonable amount. This year, though, the sales tax revenue is kind of off the charts. There's considerably more funding than that 300,000. In fact, if you take the average for the months since February, it's more like 550,000 a month that we took in. So this is the first time we've had this issue that we actually have more revenue than we estimated. And so what this policy change does is just make it clear, if you choose, you can change the amount from what we said, because I believe we said when we sent letters out to you that we were anticipating 4.4 million that we have available based on that conservative estimate. Well, now we're probably closer to 5.8 million for the calendar year. In fact, you know, if you chose, you could actually submit a proposal that would fund all the projects this year. So what this policy does is just clears it up that in fact the COG can make a change if it's to adjust to revenue. Because if you think about that, it makes sense that we don't want to sit on money, or in the case where we had less revenue than we anticipated, of course, we'd want to adjust that too. So that just makes that clear that you can do that if you choose. Are there any questions on that or concerns? The other change is, if you remember last year, there was concern about how we scored. If you remember, the technical committee has a role in doing some data-driven scoring of 3 different categories: congestion, safety, and advanced corridor preservation. There was concern with how our safety scoring criteria was done. And so the CTAC discussed options. We, early in the year, we brought that issue to you, to this group, and it was tasked back to the CTAC to come up with a better way. So the CTAC over the course of since February has met a few times and has come up with what we think is a better way and a new approach to how safety projects are scored. And I'll review that in brief, but you'll see that codified on page 13 of how that is changed. And the way we did it before was a cost benefit analysis that was based on a crash history. And that had certain limitations. It didn't seem to meet the needs or often reflect the full safety picture really a simplified approach because, you know, doing these sort of things can be quite complicated. What we've now come up with, and the technical committee approved this, and what we're hoping for your approval is to codify this in the policy document, because this is actually the way the scores were generated and the recommendation that Jim will go over in a minute using this approach. And essentially what the approach is we draw upon a third-party unbiased expert, and Dallas, you see up there on the screen, is that individual. Dallas is an engineer consultant, WGS, is that right, Dallas?
It's WCG, but that's okay.
He is the go-to guy that UDOT uses when they do project safety analysis for their scoring process. So Dallas is really the statewide expert, probably even nationwide, in terms of how do you analyze projects and the complicated safety aspects of projects and try to make it a determination in kind of what project might be better than another. And so we've engaged Dallas and essentially tasked him with doing an independent third-party safety analysis of all the projects. We fed him information. We gave opportunities for the sponsoring jurisdictions to point out any safety aspects that they think he should consider as part of his analysis. We gave, we give the ability for the consultant to make his ranking of projects based on either hard data analysis, but we recognize that in some cases, it's really hard to do a hard data analysis on certain type of projects. For instance, new roads that don't exist, that might be offsetting traffic on another road. So doing a hard-coded data-driven analysis is somewhat difficult on that. So we actually give Dallas, or the consultant that we tasked with doing this, some discretion to make professional judgments on projects that aren't suited to a safety analysis. So we tasked Dallas with analyzing it. What was sent out to you in the email, in the hard copy version, we only sent you the abbreviated version because there's a whole bunch of pages of safety data analysis, or I think it was 80 pages. But in the email I sent out on the link, you'll see kind of this full-blown analysis. There's a memo that Dallas produces. He brings that back to the CTAC. So we asked him to do his analysis. The CTAC can then question him, say, why did you do this? They still have to approve what he did. And that justification happens in that CTAC setting where different questions can be asked of Dallas and eventually hoping to get to a ranking. What this does is once the safety consultant does the ranking, this translates it into points. So it says his number one ranked project gets the full 15 points. His number two gets 10. Go on down the list. If it's the third ranked project, 5, 2. Some projects just don't lend themselves. They don't have a safety benefit aspect, or they may have. I mean, every project probably has some, even a pavement rehab, but it's not a real quantifiable one. So those non-ranked projects still get some 1 point. But this is kind of how his ranking translates to scoring. Now, we actually realized after we approved this that this is probably too rigid. And next year, we'll probably come back to you with some suggestions that we give more flexibility in how this, rather than hard coded out, where, because, you know, in this case, in this year, in Dallas's ranking, there was just a few points difference between the 1 and the 2 in terms of the crash reduction benefit. But our system made him give it 15 or 10 points. So we're going to work on that over the course of the beginning of next year. Probably try to get this a little more nuanced, but we're learning. This is the first time we did it and applied it this year. So we're learning some things, and we'll come back with you next year. But because this was the approved criteria that the CTAC approved formally. And because we used it for this round, we want you to bless it and codify it in the document, that you're okay with it. Now, if you really hated this approach, you could shoot it back to the CTAC and say, you guys blew it, come up with something better. We did work quite hard on figuring out different ways to do it, to be honest with you. We looked at a whole bunch of different approaches, and this seemed to be the best approach that kind of allowed that data-driven analysis to happen. It also gave some ability for professional judgment based on different types of projects. So that is on page 13, and then there's some text that accompanies that. You see that highlighted, page 11. And those are the changes that sort of codify that new approach to safety. Because we want you to bless that approach, because you'll be asked to approve the recommendation that was an outcome of that new approach later in the meeting. And that's really all I have. Dallas, we kind of have him on here if you have any kind of deep dive questions. Do you want to add anything that I missed, Dallas?
No, I think you gave me plenty of credit, probably more than I deserve. But no, I've worked for the last 9 years with UDOT, and I'm their resident expert for the Highway Safety Manual and predictive modeling of safety. And so that's what I tried to apply here when it was applicable, and when I couldn't find a way of doing it, then of course we ranked it differently. But no, I think that's it, unless anyone has questions.
Mayor Barnes?
If a consultant is going to rank the projects like we've explained, so both on page 11 and on 13, under what circumstances would there be a change that requires both the CTAC?
So I think what that is conceived of is if there's a disagreement with how Dallas scored a project, or for some reason the CTAC collectively disagreed with it, what that is saying is the whole group has to agree to override that. Does that make sense? So the CTAC has to collectively agree to change anything from what the consultant came up with.
If you disagreed with the consultant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, hopefully there's opportunity in the process, because Dallas often would call the applicants to get more information, ask them, what they felt about the safety aspects of their project, and then the give and take in the CTAC meeting, where Dallas is there to report his outcome, gives opportunity for the CTAC members to raise questions or concerns and hopefully get to an agreement.
So basically, this is an independent set of eyes looking at the project. It may bring more clarity that somebody intimately involved wouldn't see.
You want to know the best thing of it? It gets me out of it. and that's a good thing. Dallas is independent. He has no conflicts of interest or anything. We kind of made sure that he's, he lives in Utah County. So yeah, I think we all view that as a good thing to have a kind of third party unbiased expert help us with this.
No safety issues down there in Utah County.
Oh, it's crazy down here. I don't know. It's just mayhem. Yeah, one thing I would like to point out is I do work for a company called WCG, and they don't know this. I mean, they know that I'm doing work for you, but what I'm about to say is it would not be good to engage them in design of an app or of a project and then have me review it, because that would cause a conflict of interest. I thought I would just bring that up because the company I work for does more than what I do. And we can work through that, but I just want to make sure that everyone's on board understanding that I do work for a third-party consultant. I'm not an independent contractor that's a standalone individual.
What firm was that again, Dallas?
It's called WCG, Walls Consultant Group or something like that, WCG.
I don't know, they've done a lot of work up here that I'm aware of, but it's good to know.
Previously known as WCEC. So the owners are Aaron Wall and Tim Taylor. So I don't know if those ring a bell to anybody, but that's who I work for.
Okay. Any other questions? That's all I have, Mayor. We would look for a formal approval of these changes. The group's comfortable.
Any discussion? Any more questions of Jeff or Dallas? Members? I don't see it. Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Mayor Wheeler,
I'll second.
second from Mayor Hare.
I'll say
Mayor Hidalgo. Ready for a vote? All in favor? Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thanks, Dallas.
Okay, item number 4, discuss cash technical advisory committee, CTAC, scoring recommendations and application plan review. Yeah.
Jim's.
I'll take that. You know, as years go by, we seem to be getting better at preparing our projects and making application. As we review the projects this year, I think we all concluded that they were all very good projects. These are real sound projects. Jesse and I visited each project. We went out and walked each project and made a couple of notes of things that we thought should be addressed. When we came together as a CTAC, we went over those items with the city if they were there or their engineer. And they were really quite minor, but we wanted to make sure that they were addressed, and we'll follow up on that. But by and large, these are real good projects, every one of them. As far as the scoring is concerned, I think Jeff covered that really well from a safety standpoint. There's 2 other categories. One is the advanced corridor preservation. There aren't any points given for that because there weren't any projects that were presented with the intention of taking advantage of that. If you are to apply for advanced preservation corridor money under this program, you cannot apply for construction money for 10 years. And that's why you have to make sure that it fits your time frame. So there weren't any projects that were submitted under that category. The last one is congestion, and that's a data-driven item. And we went over each one of those. The rural projects, as you would assume, generally do not get congestion numbers. However, I think Trenton did this year. No, Trenton didn't. Millville did, excuse me. Millville got some congestion points, as did Newton. Newton was really a great project. As I looked at that intersection, as we went out and we drove it, you can understand why Newton was applying for money to fix that intersection. It's one that really is needed. And the Millville one, that's to add a right turn lane, and certainly that's going to have an effect as you come on to 165. That's going to have an effect as far as congestion at that intersection. So both of those rural projects got points, as did all of the urbanized projects. And you can see the points that were assigned. The leading vote getter was First West. And that doesn't, I think, surprise anybody, the benefits that that's going to bring to the downtown Logan area, particularly once Main Street goes under construction. That's going to be a great project. It's going to, there's a bridge over the Logan River, and it's going to make that connection from 8991 all the way down. So it joins in with First West that is being used to a great extent now. And then also 12th East, it gets out of Dogleg, and I won't go over that. I'll give the sponsor an opportunity to review that with you. And also the First South Road, the Gateway Drive. This is a project that should be familiar to everyone. It's been here for a couple of years now. We've gone over, we've wrestled with it, and it's back now, and it looks like it's in good shape. And as Jeff mentioned, if you choose to increase the funding above what was originally proposed, there was sufficient funding for all of these projects. So I'm going to keep my comments short unless you have a comment that you want to address to me, and then I'll just turn it back to Jeff and we'll get into the presentations. Yes, Mayor.
No, I think that it could save a lot of time. If we have the money to fund every project, let's just do it.
Second.
Why would we spend all the time going through the projects if we're gonna fund them already?
So let me
Go
address
ahead.
that. Last week, we had a executive committee meeting, COG meeting, and we talked about that, and one of the attendees, I won't mention who, said, well, why have any presentations? To your point, Dave. We've got 100% funding to everything. And I remember years in the past, we've been taken to task by the county council for not dotting the i's and crossing the t's. So realizing that this is a public meeting and it's on public record, we probably do need to still go through the exercise of having a presentation. So it's on the agenda, and that's what we're going to do.
The other thing that's important is you still have a portion of it. You still have to rank these projects. And it's to your benefit to be familiar with them. I'm not sure you're familiar with all of these projects to the extent that you need to be in order to do your part of the process. So we're not looking for a 30-minute presentation. In fact, we would like to see you keep it brief, but present the projects at least in a manner where those who might be here to hear the presentations and also for your own benefit so that that information gets out.
Makes sense.
If we didn't do the scoring too, we're kind of afoul of state code that requires we go through a process. So I think it's better that we see the ranking through, even though we may end up at the same place.
So on that note, we're going to go ahead and proceed with the presentations. Any particular order we want?
Let's just do it. This is.
Do a one, two, three.
Yeah, this is just in no particular order or ranking, but it's how I kind of numbered the project. So we'll have Providence go first.
So I stand back here.
Why don't we have you at the pulpit up
Stand
there,
all the way
Ryan?
up here.
I think that'll allow us to keep you on camera better.
All right, well, we
Introduce yourself.
yes, Ryan Stone, City Manager of Providence City. I was here last year and presented the same project and didn't score quite high enough for the volume of money that was there, but we came back. And we have a few more things that just kind of show on the project.
Bear with me here one second.
Sure. I'm just going for a brief intro. All right, we ready?
I think so.
Okay, we can go on the next slide there. This is connecting into several other projects that have been funded by the COG. We have the Gateway North and South connections, the roundabout at 100 North and 100 South. So our project is right here. It connects into Gateway Drive. So anyway, we've had some other issues. We've been here, like I said. It is part of our city transportation plan. So anyway, if you go to the next slide. So here's our plan. You can see that we've planned major traffic from east to west. And this is one of our collector roads to take traffic from our bench. So a lot of the traffic will come down and feed right onto to the highway. So then there's been a lot of growth and development in here, and you'll notice the schools that it'll feed right close to there. So it'll take a lot of the traffic from those new developments. But anyway, next slide. All right, just to zoom farther in. This one shows where the schools are in the park, and kind of shows right in our downtown, our heart of our traffic area corridor. So Anyway, go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. We've already talked about safety. Just kind of split through these ones that they're just kind of to show you images of what it is and where we're at. Yep. Yeah, one more. There we go. So this is one thing, since we've been here last, we have started a project improvement throughout some of the rest of our downtown core. We will widen this year before the end of the paving season this year. We'll widen from 200 West all the way over, and we'll widen 4 blocks to match that. So that traffic coming onto this stretch is going to continue to increase. That congestion continues to be an issue. We'll widen into our full city standard on that stretch here. So anyway, so we'll be all complete the full stretch there. Anyway, any questions about the project? I think I have another slide or two. We can stop at that point. Oh, no. Okay. Any questions? I know that's a new one for us, and I didn't mean to take a lot of time where we're going through all the projects. So.
Thank you, Ryan.
I see none. I think I'm good, Chair. Thank you all.
You're funded.
Thank you.
Logan's up next. Who's here from Logan?
Hi, everybody. I'm Sam. I'm the project manager for this for Logan City. Jeff, why don't you go to the 4th slide? We'll start there.
You know how to please a crowd.
Yeah. So 100 West, this has been before this body before a couple times. This is the final installment of this. We are planning to bid this in a month and a half and start construction in the winter and have it done hopefully a year from now. So this is our final time come to the talk for this project. As you can see, bridge over the Logan River, right turn improvements at the highway, and then widening the whole quarter at 80 feet. Does anyone have any questions?
I will note for the ones that are in the CMPO, this is the project that we approved for the exchange funds to try to mitigate and try to make the project work with the COG funds that are available.
And because of that, we were able to lower our ask this year. We're asking for about $1 million less than we thought we would have to. We're only asking for 1.6 million.
Have you purchased the properties on the north end?
Yes, the north end, we've actually got all the properties. We're still working through some of the properties through the center of the project, but we've got all the key ones to make the bridge and connection around the church.
Did you mention the free ride onto the highway?
Yeah, so if you're familiar with the intersection of 10th West and Highway 8991, how it's got that free right hand turn to head southbound, we're basically mimicking that here at the highway across the street from McDonald's. So same thing, you won't have to stop at the traffic light to make that right turn onto the highway.
Will you make Golf Course Road stop when they cross that?
Yes, we're gonna switch the stop sign. So right now you stop on right now 100 West stop, we're switching it, so there'll be a stop sign on Golf Course Road. So this will be no stop until you get to First South.
And a traffic light?
No plans for traffic light right now. Once it's built.
300 south we're looking at, right? Has that already been warranted?
We are doing a study right now on 300 South and 100 West, but we don't know the results of that yet.
And you said you would block the road by the river?
Yes, I don't know if we're gonna do it with this project. It'll probably be done with the underpass. Maybe you've heard the underpass project that we've got under Main Street. But you're right, this 600 South is going to become a cul-de-sac, so you won't be able to access the highway. That'll help reduce some of the traffic down on that end.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Cache County.
Are you folks on the Zoom call? Are you seeing the PowerPoint? Okay.
Slide 5 and one up, Sam. Says questions.
I'll skip to wherever you tell me.
When I came to the county a couple of years ago, I was out on the tour with the road shop guys, and we came to Mons Corner, and there was a dilapidated guardrail there and a whole bunch of old orange barrels and cones, and I asked them, what's going on here? And they said, people run off the road so often that we just don't even fix it anymore. So they just kind of had a pile of car parts and bent guardrail and a whole bunch of posts in there. And so one of the things that came recently is that they piped that irrigation. And so it made it possible for us to almost eliminate the hazards at Mon Corner. But in doing so, it needs some alignment, it needs some drainage, it just needs some engineering at that corner. So in order to accomplish all those, we need to purchase some right away. And so that's what this project is for, is to go out and purchase right away so we can improve the safety, we can improve the geometrics, and we can help that intersection out. So, and we applied for the same project last year,
Twice.
just once,
Oh, I thought it was here.
Just once.
just last year. We were right below what was funded last year.
And this is just right of way.
This is just for right away.
One question that you clear up there on 3400 North, the west end of that, that's going to be now a driveway.
The west end over here, this one, is that the one?
3400 North, the existing 3400 North,
Behind,
This-
north of the
this
existing
one.
house.
north of the existing house.
We'll,
There.
we'll cut this off so you won't be able to access their,
Okay, so
they'll have to access their house from around.
That house is gone, or that was,
That house is still there,
will it be gone though?
not with this project. If I can, if
Seems
I,
like that's right in the road, right in the.
that house is in a bad location, but we couldn't, to align it, we couldn't warrant getting rid of the whole house for this project. So.
So you have to go around, you still go around it though.
Yeah, because when we try to realign this, it actually pulls it away from the house. It doesn't push it towards the house, so.
Have you shared this idea with the landowners out there?
We have talked to the landowners out there, and most of them realize that there needs to be some kind of improvement, and we haven't had any pushback with the landowners.
I see you're going into Richard Mond's dairy.
Yeah, we had a conversation with Richard. He wants to try to keep as much land as possible for him, so but we have had a conversation with all the landowners.
You move all those power poles there.
There'll be some power pole relocation, there'll be some sign, there'll be some drainage improvements. We've talked to the Ricks. So it's a fairly substantial project. There's a lot of work to be done. So once we get the right of way purchase and we have a phased program to do some drainage improvements, then we'll do some realignment. Then we'll probably try to redo some of Airport Road. And then we'll probably try to do some of 3400 North as well.
So this is just right away purchase then.
This is just right away purchase.
What was last year?
Same thing. We didn't get approved last year for
I
right.
wasn't approved. Oh,
Is your intent to come back to COG for funding for construction subsequently, or are you looking at other funding mechanisms?
A lot of the drainage improvements we plan to do in-house, but when we come back and start doing some of the realignment, the road construction are things that come back to COG.
are you gonna have a problem getting the right away?
We should not.
You should not.
We should not. Most of the property owners, when we talk to them, have been agreeable. For them, a lot of them, it makes it better for them. Because of the realignment, it makes it easier for them. It helps, the Rick's property, it helps their property.
When you're going out that way and you turn them over, show me on there where you turn there. What's that? Is that?
The hash area would be the part where we need to purchase right away. So if you're coming from Airport Road and you were to make this, there would be a right-hand lane that you could just keep doing north on it.
That's right next to her house on there, isn't it pretty close?
It is pretty
Or that'll be a.
Well, never mind. When you
construction. We'll talk about it. Any other questions?
It needs to be done.
It does need to be done.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Bill?
That's me.
You can keep it brief.
Basically, what we've requested funding for is on 550 north, where you come down from Millville, the high school, Ridgeline High School joins into it. There is no turning lane to turn right. And so if somebody's turning left here, especially during school hours, that traffic backs clear up and back up halfway the road because there's no right turning lane. So our purpose is just to get the funding to put in a right turn lane to get rid of that traffic. That's it.
Any questions for Dave?
We don't have that on Google. do you?
I could try to pull it up. You want me to try to pull it up?
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it is.
There you go.
2,300.
So right now, there's not a right turn lane there.
There's not a right turn lane. Apparently, the school district was gonna put one in when they put the school in, but it never happened. So,
Should they be paying for it?
That's what happens with the school districts.
And if you go just right there, you can see the roundabout. That's another one of our projects.
um, actually, right here is where we're talking. If there's any kind of a big vehicle, you can sneak around a little bit, but if there's any big vehicle there. That's,
Have you already got the property for that?
yeah, we have it.
All right.
We'll have to put a little bit of a culvert in there. There's a ditch that runs down.
Thank you, Dave. Malcolm?
I'm Eric Gersbauer from the town engineer from Malga. We can skip to the next slide since we're all skipping slides. The project is up on Main Street, 2400 West. It goes from the old red church there, north of town boundary. We're just gonna simply go in and reach it, but there's some minor patches in there. We can kind of fix some areas, some edge work. Really basically a chip seal and a fog coat. When we get it all done, definitely improve what's out right now. By the next slide, please. This is, I caught Mayor Malaga driving his tractor down the road to the south of us here, so I thought I put that on too. Just, you know, something right there. But a chip seal definitely improves all this. It's good friction on it too. It increases. How about the next slide? Yeah. You kind of see on this upper left-hand corner here, there's a little bit of, some areas just need a little bit of patch on it, to kind of bring it through. You can see on the bottom picture, again, it's quite a project, it goes quite a ways. A lot of traffic, a lot of local vehicles take that road, so. Sort of next slide. You can hit that 2 or 3 times on that. Now, on this COG funding project, we applied for 133.2 COG funding. It's actually 125.4. There was a typo on that application, so if this is funded, we'll have to make that adjustment. Next slide.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
The COG funding
In the application,
says 133.2. It should be 125.
the requested amount or the total project cost?
The requested amount.
Okay.
Yeah, so make that adjustment. But we just opened this one. Next slide, yeah. You kind of see on the kind of the lower left through the picture, there's it's kind of polished. The old chip seal is wearing fairly well, but it's getting a bit polished on it. A little wear on it. And they Struts kind of cut that corner short, so we'll go in and kind of deepen that area here and put another catch on it. Maybe that chip seal on it. So it should improve the surface and last much longer, so. Next slide. There you go. Same here, as you head north, kind of around the slough there, around the corner there, you kind of see it's starting to polish their feet. Yeah, the new surface is definitely put the friction on the other road. So on the bottom right picture shows I believe it's the county chip seal. They did recently. The east side of that is the mountain road. The idea is to go ahead and put that surface cover on it. Good project, good road for it. The road in pretty good shape. There's no alligator, rutting. It's in good shape. It just needs that surface. Any questions for me? Pretty straightforward project.
Now, Eric, this was an earlier COG project, I believe, a few years back where it was overlaid. Is that?
This one was it may have been, but not.
Yeah, it was before you, right? It's one of our earlier COG projects. I think the first one that Naga had. Typically, after they're overlaid, we encourage a chip seal to be placed on them. So this is a little late, but it's still right in line with what we encourage cities to do.
Anything else? Question? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Brett?
Oh, I'm gonna have to.
I was hoping I was supporting you.
We also applied for this project a couple years ago, but we actually have changed it a little bit. We divided it into two projects. I don't know what my screen numbers are, so you can flip forward a couple. This is actually the south side of the road, which would be the second phase of our project. The first phase, which we're hoping to do this year, is the north part of the road. You can see several years ago, we put in the water lines and the sunk part of the road. So now keep going, a couple of screens ahead, one more maybe, two more. You can see where that road was cut out, how much it's sunk in that spot in the winter time. If you're driving along there and it's slick at all, you get pulled into that and it's kind of scary. So our plan is to recycle all of that, dig it down and re-put it in and have a fabulous new road. We also have a culvert that we need to replace at the end of this road that will help with drainage and an intersection. That's the smallest picture on there is a picture of the intersection that's in rough shape. So this is the first phase of the project. The second that we would apply for in future years would be the other half of this road. You want to go to the page that has the cost on that? Yeah, you can see the road's kind of in bad shape. So the total cost is around $250,000. We would put in $25,000, which is about 10% of the total project, which is more than COG requires. And we're asking for 226 and change. Any questions?
Is this for half that road?
Yes, this would be for half the road.
On the south end?
On the north end.
It goes all the way up to where it turns.
So it's
You
the
do the
north half.
north half of
It's in the worst shape, so we would do the north half first and then the south half.
it. It's the same thing on both sides. Just-
Yes.
You might mention that this is a road that will be pulverized and completely rebuilt and widened. Right now, it's about
2
20
feet
feet
on both
wide.
sides.
It'll be 24 feet once it's complete.
In your earlier statement, when you said that we have more money, you're not saying that we should try and do this all in 1 year instead of.
No,
Okay.
with the applications that we have now,
Okay.
they're sufficient.
Just want to make sure I didn't miss something, because that'd be great.
We've been awarded one project before, I think back in 2017, 2018, to redo our road that connects in with the Malchus Road actually. And the picture that the last presenter showed of the chip sealing was actually the Trent Road. And we actually paid out of our own budget to have that chip sealed. So we are invested in keeping our roads nice. I think our total budget is around 55,000. So the idea of being able to pay 225,000 is overwhelming when your total road budget is only 55,000. Any other questions? Thanks for the time.
Thanks for calling. Mendon? You do this remotely yet? Eric's good.
So Mendon City has a Quaker project, it's on 200 West. And it's from Center Street to 200 South, and then 200 South, it ends, there's a going there, and it doesn't go beyond that, so it's, the road's been kind of disrepair for some years. The idea, the city council decided, let's go ahead and put some money into this application in the COG plan, and see if we can get this fixed, we just have to date and white to see the spec, so how about the next slide, yeah. That's the next slide. The scope is again to widen the road. We've got some drives on the west side of the road to tie into and the east side. It's kind of comes on a slope. So the west side is a little bit slow, and the road kind of flattens out. The east side there has some slopes to it. And then there's some fancy landscaping on the south end. There was some discussion about putting a turnaround on the end of this. So I drew a 50-foot turnaround on the end. I spoke with Kirk at Mendon City. He suggested we just put a gravel turnaround there. It's supposed to be. If I pull off the hats on that turnaround, you'll see a big dumpster down there, tractor just done. So we probably opposed to putting money in the asphalt, or something. That makes it easy to maintain, push snow off and that stuff too. As you head south off that turnaround there, we get started steep in that draw. And the likelihood of the road going south of that is unlikely. Near future, maybe if ever. So next slide. I see two or three there. We'll go through some more pushing up. I should fix this next time.
Oh, sorry.
So we're requesting about $113,000. Again, it's widening, it's filling in the low spots. The roads in tough shape. And if we bring it to steep standards, we can fix that south end so it becomes more of a turnaround for emergency vehicle that benefits. Then the locals up there. So next slide. You kind of sat back and took some pictures on that kind of sweet road finish there. When you approach, you head south and see the parking, and you see this folks on the right hand side where they open that park. I did, by the way, I did switch the pictures in, so it looks narrow. They're really great there. So, but you'll see dumpsters actually back in there. The neighbors down there improving their homes and stuff, so it really has torn up that stuff. So if we can widen the road and make it look nice. This is off the county's GIS map. Kind of see the condition out there. It's pretty obvious. That's a pretty good good project. It's a little project that will definitely benefit the community and enhance that area. Any questions?
Sorry, I can do that.
No, you're good.
We can go back.
No, you're fine. And I did have a geotech look at it. It's just a great candidate to pulverize the asphalt, and kind of blend the asphalt in the base, and then repack it, purpose the asphalt. Excuse me. The county kind of south there was nice trees. The landscaper put into this home run up there. Well, that's kind of work around now. So you look at the plants, it real kind of as this, kind of get around the improvements in there without doing too much. So, any questions for me that I can answer on this?
Did you say you're gonna make that turnaround gravel?
Gravel, yeah.
Is that allowed with COG money?
We had the COG project before that. So back up a couple slides.
In the rural areas, it actually would be allowed. State code says it just has to be on a B and C road. It doesn't say the surface type in rural areas. In urban areas, it wouldn't be.
Okay.
But that was kind of our thought, just put gravel down there. I mean, it gets happened. So Any more questions?
Eric, the one question that I think Jesse and I had when we went over the project out there is, you mentioned the homeowner on the south end and all the landscaping and curbing and stuff that he's put in. It looks like he's just done it recently as part of his home construction. Are you going to be able to work with that? I mean, we don't want you to be wowing the road just to get around the trees. Are you going to be able to maintain a consistent alignment?
We will, in fact, in the plans that we have that turn to the east and the south end, we're gonna shift that just a little bit to the west. Put it more back to that. So if that, you can go to that,
Which
one
one?
slide up, Jeff. One more, one more up, one more. Right there. So you'll notice right there on the south end, you kind of see it jogging down here, kind of takes a dip. When they take that dip and push it back.
So you're going to push it to the west then?
Yeah, there's more room there. I think it's kind of looked at the area of photography and contours. That kind of fit mesh contour wise, but if we push it back to the west, we've got a little more area to the west there. It's been landscaped, but it's just grass. We'll take some of that out. Did it more back in the center of that area. Any more questions? I'll just say.
What's that?
I'll just say.
Oh, you're up?
Les Mayor Rose. Okay, Newtontown has a fun project there on the second east 24th. This project has kind of been on the.
Well, project, I don't see the good truck.
Let's try to stay there.
Mayor Rhodes is gonna ask for a lot more money all of a sudden.
Let's go to the next page now. That's interesting. So up in Newton, this rural, this 200 east here on the north end of that intersection, it has a white. Traffic coming from both directions, so you get frequent traffic at one of the intersections, which is difficult. As I was out taking pictures, just kind of get an idea. You'll see this car on the bottom left, the bottom right picture there. He's coming up the right hand side, so he's going the wrong way. So I thought that's interesting. You had a kid that's playing right next to him. You can't see behind him down there, but there's kids playing on there. You get a little picture, but you kind of see kind of the issue there. The kids that have a right bikes, they have any time up there, but the issue is that the east side, there dips, and the west side, right. So kind of the Zeus goes up the hill. So the idea was to flatten this out, level it out, widen the road, and then reconstruct a nice 20-foot roadway. County standard roadway. So go to the next slide. So on what we did, we did pulverize the left-hand side, build asphalt, pulverize and use the base. And then on the east side, so over here, we got the fill. So wool kind of comes in here, but it kind of drops. We'll fill this area in here. And try and match it. This side will come down a little bit. This is going to come up a little bit. Trying to balance out and cut and fill and kind of lift things up. I should have put a cross section in the road. The idea is to do a nice cross section through there. And on the north end, we'll have to have a culvert that carries water from the west to the east. So again, it's a good project. This is nice asphalt that can improve the intersection for traffic. Now, one more note, we've had the city council, town council, we talked about the radius up there on that intersection. They said we typically it's 30, 20, 30, 25, 30 feet. They wanted a 50, but they're used to it. Just give those big traction trucks enough room to get around the corner. So we applied to that as well. Next one. So we know this is a little expensive, but things now are a little expensive. So we try to adjust and figure out the fill material. We got to get it placed and patch it. There's some debris on the east side of the road. It's got to come out. We got to skip our volume. We take things out of there and rebuild that east side of the road there. So there'll be some improvements in backfill structure. Bring this to grade and take care of landscaping and take that gentleman's house on the east corner there, or west corner there, back into a usable corner there. In fact, you slide that a couple of slides up on the jet, I'll kind of show right there, that one right there. You kind of see up in that picture there on that left-hand side of the house there, that road cuts his property. So again, we're trying to shift some property, different line, reestablish his property. So he's got a place that's right there that safe as well as his landscape and put the road back up to the bell.
One thing about that picture that he showed, there's a better look at it. It's really hard to appreciate the elevation difference as you drive down that road, what a difference it will make. Even that picture really doesn't do it justice. There's quite a, it's really a difficult intersection, and the improvements are obvious when you stand out there and you can see how it's going to bring that whole grade up and make it a whole lot more usable to that homeowner.
Let's go to the next slide, see that show for us. There you kind of see that in there. So I'm looking west. You got that drawing there. I mentioned that goes back up again by the house there. And this one on the bottom right, I'm looking east. That one doesn't show up. He's right. It kind of drops off to the end and turns around and goes over. Let's try one more down. There you kind of see it. So it is kind of a funny intersection, but the idea is take a lot of hill, put some of the bottom and kind of bring it up so it all stabilize the intersection, brings it to these grade elevation. So I think that's it. Any questions? Good project.
I have a question. As they're doing development in these areas, are the homeowners required to develop the road in front of their property or contribute to seeing that the roads work properly on their corners and stuff, or?
They are.
Existing road. On the existing road. It's just-
Not on the existing road.
That's an existing road, paved and everything. If
This,
it's not,
yeah, for development, though, for subdivision,
for developing, yeah, if you're developing there, they're required.
in new developments, we do.
Okay.
Unfortunately, in this one, it's like, where did the tractors drive over the last 50 years and end up being in the guy's yard?
Yeah, they just put dots between cow pies.
Well, it drove so fast, they just pushed all the dirt up on that west side there, so we gotta bring it back down. Any more questions for me? Super, thank you.
Thank you. North Logan.
So we can start at slide 37 and should be able to knock this out in half hour. So the second slide is the best one to kind of look at there. So 1200 East is a regionally significant corridor. It runs all the way from the Kane College of Arts on the corner of Highway 89, past Aggie Ice Cream, Logan Cemetery, through the city of North Logan, little stretch of county, Hyde Park, another stretch of county, and then into Smithfield. When it's completed, it's been recognized by this body, by each of the three cities, all of them as a regionally significant road, with the idea being that you can get from Smithfield all the way down to be able to access the canyon or the highway from Smithfield down to Logan. So a huge road with great significance for the area, and it's almost all the way put in. There's a little stretch missing in North Logan, a small stretch in Hyde Park, and then a stretch in unincorporated county. And for our project this year, we would like to put in to get this road from being something that gets you to about 2300 north in North Logan to something that will get you all the way to Hyde Park, with the thinking being that in time, Hyde Park and the county will address the remaining portions to get the whole thing done. Zooming in on specifics on the next slide. And we've talked about, there's a bunch of different studies where this body and others have identified it. Now you may look at this and the dashed line is where we're planning to construct, and you're thinking, something didn't go right with the engineering because we're leaving a little gap in there. There's a development that's taking place in that area that is already addressing the roadway there. And so what we need support on is this segment and this segment that are as yet undeveloped or that have already got developed on the front end and won't provide any support to us on the back end at this point. Next. So we're covering 2400 north and 2500 north. Then we've got some development covers about another block, and then it connects out to this curve right there. Safety, obviously, and congestion are big issues. We're really thrilled to have scored pretty effectively on that. And it's going to be very helpful reducing congestion on 800 East and 1600 East by connecting this through to Hyde Park. There's an existing bridge on 2750 and 1200 East with a wide variety of issues. You can see as the school bus goes around it, that doesn't look like it's going to be a fun ride on the way to school. Gets rid of that S bend, and we'll be able to move directly from this point straight down to connect to 1200 East and take that aspect from that way. Carrying on. Lots of good connectivity in terms of what this road connects to everywhere else. That's certainly sufficient, I think, to just mention that. You guys can look at it in greater detail. I can do questions on it. Is connected to not just vehicular, but also to a variety of multimodal transit. Next slide. Cross section. If you don't get enough of this from your engineers, you can look at that later. And next, we have a variety of betterments that we'll be adding in terms of utilities. We'll also add curb and gutter to help the stormwater there. Betterments. Next. And so what we're asking COG for is $1.3 million to complete this. In terms of both we've got some land to acquire as well as the improvements themselves. And then we have a total of just shy of 1.5 million in COG eligible costs and then some non-eligible betterments. And so we want to make sure we're showing the COG that we've got a considerable amount of skin in the game on this project as well. And so we will bring just shy of $500,000 to completing the project. Including the betterments and to match the 1.3 million we're seeking for the COG. Next. Oh, I guess there's not any minutes. I think that's it. Any questions that I can answer for y'all?
Thank you, David.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Covered all the presentations. Jeff, you want to take us through the item 6, the remaining project prioritization and process?
So this is our approved schedule that was approved at the beginning of the year. We're now at this point, which is the applicant presentation. What happens now, all of you should have been sent via email a spreadsheet, an online Google spreadsheet requesting you to complete your ranking. It should be really simple. There's a yellow highlighted portion of that spreadsheet. You just put your ranking in 1 through 9, and you don't even need to do anything. Once you put it in, it becomes available to me to tally and to pull together all the averages. Did everyone get that spreadsheet email? If you're really, really afraid of it that way, we'd be happy to hook you up with a paper copy that you could fill that out. But I really think it's pretty simple if you can just open that link and just type in 1 through 9, and I'd be happy to walk you through it over the phone. Or I could hook you up with a paper hard copy if you want to do it that way. And you can just see me after if you want me to hook you up with that. Are there any questions about that ranking or what's expected there? Done it before. We have a deadline for that of October 1st. And we could accelerate that if you want, given the context of where we're at. The next thing would be our final meeting, which is to consider approval of the COG recommendation. In light of kind of where we're at, and if the COG desires to just approve all the projects, we could make that a quick painless Zoom meeting where you get on, everyone get on, we just do a Zoom only. It'd probably take 10 minutes if everyone is okay with that approach, and we wouldn't have to come together for a meeting. It's really what you want to do. Otherwise, what we had slated was to meet at a formal meeting on the 18th and approve the recommendation. Now, obviously, when we can't fund all the projects, that meeting becomes a little more challenging, but it's really up to you how you want to approach it. We could actually move that meeting up if we wanted to, and just have a quick Zoom meeting because what I'll do is I'll tally all the rankings and see what it all shakes out, and then we'll apply the funding, and that's what you would approve. I guess I'd probably want to know here in maybe a head nod way of whether you want to stick with the 4.4 million or dig deeper into that extra revenue we have, because that's probably how I approach having to attach the money. We really don't attach the money to the ranking until that next meeting.
Bearing in mind the 4.4 won't fund all the projects.
What's the total? It remind me what the total of all the projects is.
If you total them all up, there's 5.4 million requests. So depending on where the ranking shook out, there'd be a shortfall.
Didn't you say earlier that there was enough money to fund all these projects?
Yeah, because of the extra revenue we have, and we kind of clarified that policy to make it clear that you could choose to do that.
You know that total?
I believe we have about 5.8 million.
5.8.
And what that does is that trues up from February when we get our last estimate till end of August. And then we assume 300,000 for September, October, November, December, the remaining months. So it's still a conservative estimates because we've been tracking some months double 300,000. Some months have taken 600,000. So it's still conservative, but we would have enough money to fund all the projects if you chose to do that.
Everyone okay with funding all of the projects?
I'll say again,
Even after we fund all
where are
the
you getting the
projects?
4.4?
The 4.4 is the money that we projected back in February. We were still at the height of the pandemic, and there was a real question mark as to how much we were going to generate sales tax wise because the economy was sluggish. But then it really turned around and it went gangbusters, as everyone knows. And our revenues were quite a bit higher than what the 300,000 reflected. And that's why there's that discrepancy between the two numbers. But then going forward from August on, for the last 3 months, we're still using 300,000, and then we're
We're gonna take one.
I mean, in my view, I don't think there's any reason to sit on money when we got good projects.
Everybody okay with funding all of the COG applications?
I
Correct.
am.
Anybody have a problem with that?
Okay, based on the ranking, I'll prepare a funding recommendation based on that. That we'll approve the next column.
So formal approval will be at the next COG.
Yeah, I think we would need to approve the ranking and see how the funding. We can make it quick and painless. Is everyone okay with a quick Zoom meeting?
Yes.
Since we had it on the 18th, should we just stick with that?
Or you want to move it up?
Now, does it help people to just know a little sooner and move it up?
Will the county council act on our recommendation any sooner if we get it sooner than the 18th? Or they already kind of got us, maybe for David, what a question more than anyone else.
We can probably throw it on whenever it's ready. If it's ready earlier, we should be able to put it on whenever.
Last year, we did it at the last county council meeting of the year. We don't want to do that. It becomes a little difficult to schedule a meeting, but if we wanted to propose something earlier, a Monday, so earlier than that, I don't need a lot of time. You know, if we have the October 1st deadline as a deadline for your ranking to turn into me, I mean, a couple days after that, we could quick turn approval.
Fall from the 26th. Council meetings. So we have, David's going to confirm for us, 12th and 26th of the county council meeting dates. So we've got a deadline of October 1st.
Turn in your rank,
Right.
unless you decide to accelerate that.
Council agenda a week prior to the meeting. We'd have to have it before, see on that meeting.
I could go ahead and just schedule it, knowing that we'd have it by then, but
Go ahead and schedule it.
for 12.
The 12th?
For the 12th.
We want to move it up? Get it done?
You're talking the 12th of November?
That'd be the county council meeting.
Okay.
If you have.
So we beat on the 4th.
Is that Monday? That would work for me.
Monday, the 4th of October works for the Zoom meeting. We good with that?
Friday. No, see, that's over the weekend. It's not gonna give you time to have.
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay.
So we could have your deadline stay October 1st, and then we could have a quick Zoom meeting October 4th at 5 p.m.
And it would be better for Jeff, because that's him, pulling everything together over the weekend. It'd be better if you got it in before the 1st, so don't wait till the last second to turn it in.
And in the past, we've been a little loose on that deadline for the mayors turning in their scores. With this tight of time frame, we won't have the ability to do that. So if you don't get your scores into me on the 1st, it's probably gonna be hard to accommodate them the next Monday. So we'll call it a hard deadline this year.
So are we good with that? Zoom meeting on the 4th. So we'll make formal vote on the 4th by Zoom meeting, and then it'll be on the county council agenda for the October 12th.
Just to be clear, we'll have this as a Zoom only meeting, so there won't be any per location.
The time would be 5.
5 o'clock?
Everybody okay with that? I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay. I'll send out an appointment.
You good, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay. County says we're good.
So congratulations, mayors. You really conceived some great projects that made it much easier this year than it has in the past. And your constituents and everyone who drives through your communities are going to appreciate these projects.
Okay, just one other item. The April meeting, we approved additional $90,000 to fund a countywide transportation project. There's previously $60,000 approved. So COG funds totaling $150,000. Matt, are you back there? Matt, give us your 2 minutes or less worth of where that is at.
I thought it might take 30 seconds just to recap in case we had some new people in here. So in the meeting that Mayor Drew was talking about, it was discussed that we kind of work on a countywide transportation master plan. It really looked at kind of the gaps between the different cities that came with cross sections that kind of helped us look more than just at our own little cities and kind of tried to broaden that perspective of how we get things kind of as Mayor King was talking about, across from North Logan to Hyde Park and those types of corridors. So that money was approved. The county staff was tasked with putting that proposal out, getting those documents ready. And that's where those funds were allocated. So Jesse and I have been working on that. We also got it approved through our county budget finance and got that money so that when that comes time, we can actually sign that contract and issue that to the consultant that we have on board. So we've been working on that. We've been overloaded, so we're behind schedule on where we would like to be on that. Our goal is to have that already put out for RFQ earlier. We're still looking at trying to get that out in the next couple of weeks to bid, and we'll take that back. Once we have a final draft of what we'll be putting out, we'll bring that back to the COG Executive Committee for final approval. We'll get that consultant on board, and then probably as a group, we'll try to talk about exactly what that scope of work will be. So we're selecting that consultant based on qualifications with kind of a general scope, and then as a group, we can narrow some of that scope in. So, that's 2 minutes. Any questions?
Any questions for Matt? Okay, we're at the end. Any other comments, questions, suggestions? All right. If not, I'll call for motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Yes.